Hello, Mr. President. It's November the 29th. It's around 7 o'clock. I'm just sitting in a Starbucks. I just came from Vancouver General Hospital. I got my stitches out, if you can see here. It has to be cleaned up, but I got the stitches out. And I had this big lump building, so we took care of that. I think I saw some real doctors, which was really great. So I finally got my medical needs attended to. I went to church today, and I'm going to transition, or I was planning to transition to a new series for messages for my sister, Kelly. Hi, Kelly. So I was going to start a new series of those, but it got circumvented with all the violence of this week. But so I'm kind of transitioning. So this is half a message to the President of the United States and half to you, Kelly. So we got to the hospital. I went to church today. That's what I was going to say. I went to church and I prayed to Jesus to help me, because every day goes by and I'm still sleeping on the streets and struggling to survive and having a very hard time of it. So I went, and he came up with a brilliant idea to go to a different hospital. So I did. I went to a different hospital and I got a different doctor, and I finally got some things addressed that needed addressing. So we got my jaw looked at, and apparently I have some sort of an infection, and have to go on another round of antibiotics for it. So that was taken care of, at least. And so now I went up to, I got some money yesterday, so I went up to Grouse Mountain, which is about half hour northeast of here. It's a ski mountain. It's quite high up, actually, at some points. So I went there because I was hoping that if by getting out of Vancouver City territory, I would then be able to find some freedom through the Army. But of course, what that taught me is, I got up there and of course I had no freedom. But what that taught me is there is no place in Canada that is safe, because either the city police are in control or the RCMP. So all of Canada now, we learn, is completely off limits to us. The whole country is a complete Nazi state, unless the police force somewhere decided not to join this. But if I run into, I take the risk anywhere in Canada. So then today, what I saw was what they were doing with putting the boats up was recreating the thought in my mind of international territory and water, and that they would know that I knew that international law allows every country 200 miles out from their coastline is their land, or their property. And so by putting the line where they put it at the opening to Burrard Inlet, and I think around English Bay is the other one, they reinforced in my mind the idea of this 200-mile boundary, and made me think that the boundary was right where they had their boats. That was the first thought, and then of course the next extension, they would assume that I would think, okay, well maybe it's this way or that way with the boundary. What I now see, the truth this morning is, there is no boundary, that the international community has forced them, that there is no boundary out into the water for these people. They have forced them to accept the seawall itself on land as the extension of their authority and power. So the land that I saw, the land that we see, that's Burrard Inlet, that is part of English Bay, the reason there are no boats there is because the international community, and primarily the United States, is not allowing these people to claim a drop of water as their own in either ocean on either side of the continent, which is exactly what I said is the core principle of American foreign policy since the American Revolution, that they control completely in every way the Atlantic and the Pacific Ocean. So they are not letting these fools have one goddamn drop of water of these oceans. So that changes the whole entire thing. I knew there was a difference here between private boats and public boats, but I couldn't get the complete full picture. Now I see that either I fly to a country that is completely away from, that is not Canadian, or I get into international water, which basically means any drop of water anywhere around me that touches the ocean. So anywhere around Burrard Inlet, anywhere, all I have to do, all I have to do, all I have to do, I believe, is get onto a boat, a private boat, or an international boat that's not Canadian. I think the BC Ferries boat that took me to Nanaimo is partly funded by the city of Vancouver, or somehow the fact that it's not 100% private allowed them to have control over me. Once I get away from Canadian land, then they have no control over me, and then I should be free. So what I'm gonna have to do is figure out how this works and which companies that rent kayaks and canoes and shit, pardon my French, which companies that rent this stuff are private and which ones are partially funded. Because if they're funded partially by even $1 by the city or the state, then they're off limits to me. If I'm on a private boat, then I could be picked up by any international country without any kind of thing with interfering with the Canadian land situation. So my answer now seems to be no Canadian land is safe for me. International water is where I have to go.